Welcome everybody to the Black, Brown, HBCU Bound podcast. I am going to start this first episode by introducing myself, Yvonne Daniels. How are you guys? I'm the founder and the creator of the Facebook group Black, Brown, HBCU Bound, which bears the same name. And what I'd like to do is jump into something that is near and dear to everybody's heart. We're going to talk about how we're going to pay for college. Not exactly how we're going to pay for college, but one of our ways of getting topics for the podcast will be ripped right out of the headlines, so to speak, of the Facebook group. Today, before organizing myself to get ready for this podcast, I looked into the group and I saw one of the trending topics were about scholarships and guidance counselors. I'm gonna read a quote that was put in there. Maybe some of you who are active in the group remember it, but it said, one of the members posted, "If you waiting on some of these school counselors to help with scholarships, your baby gonna be working at the car wash." I thought that was funny. Many of you thought it was funny. You got a lot of traction, so many responses, and we're going to talk about that today because being able to meet the cost of attendance is not an easy feat. Some of these schools are upwards of $50,000. That is something that they're expecting you to have paid for without hesitation. Your classes will be dropped. We know the HBU system can be a wonderful experience, but they need their money just like every other school and institution does. So some of the things we're going to talk about is scholarships and how much assistance you can expect from your student's high school advisor, whether it be a college advisor, a guidance counselor, whomever. So we're going to talk about some of those things surrounding that and how it ties into getting money and how much help you can actually expect from those professionals who are in the high schools assisting your students as they transition out of high school into college. So we're going to jump right into it. Taking charge of the scholarship application process. Many people are of the belief that the schools are the people who are responsible for being able to usher your students through the scholarship application process. That to me is something that you don't want to find yourself relying on. It's not a good idea. It's not a good option. The bottom line is those who are in those positions, they have so many functions. They not everybody goes to college, so the guidance counselor or the person who transitions these young adults into adulthood or their next steps after high school, they're not just charged with getting your baby into college, although we'd like them to be able to. But when you also think of that, you might want to consider how many roles and functions they have, and how many the counselor to student ratio is something else you might want to consider when you think about being able to rely on them as the people who are going to, manage your students' scholarship application dreams. First and foremost, before I really get into the crux of what this episode is going to be about, you want to start early. You know if your student is college bound, and even if they're not, sometimes they come around and they surprise you at the end. So what I encourage people to do is to start the scholarship application process early. Right? I think I've said it enough times. I'll say it again for those of you who are new. How I got to where I am today is because my two youngest students graduated, one from Howard and one from Morehouse. And I am living proof that you can get this tuition paid and meet the cost of attendance without spending any of your money if you start early enough. So let's just knock some things out of the park before we start. You don't have to be poor and living in a cardboard box under a bridge to be able to get scholarships. You don't have to have a student who is in the top 10 percentile. They don't have to be necessarily gifted in terms of a talent or a sport. What has to be done first and foremost is to understand that it is a process and you have to start earlier. The earlier the better. The earlier you start, the more favorable your results are. And that's with any caliber of student. Scholarships are out there for students depending on a myriad of things. You don't have to be a genius. You do not have to be a star football player or play a sport even to that effect. So keep that in mind. No matter who your student is, no matter where they are, I would suggest you start your scholarship application process at the very least in the 10th grade. And that process is a family affair. You do not want to put that in the hands of a student who has no idea what student loan debt is or the impact it will have on their futures, right? So you want to keep that in mind. Okay. When you think about scholarship services and you think about the school guidance counselor, the college advisor, just think of who that person is. That person is charged with helping your students keep the timeline and in terms of filling out the applications, making sure they compile their grades, helping them as much as they can in terms of encouraging them to write essays, compelling essays. There's so many things and so many components involved with applying for scholarships that you cannot put this on the school administrators. You can't. This is not something that they are interested in. After your student leaves them, you will be stuck. You and your child will be stuck finding out how it is that you're going to meet the cost of attendance at their next step. Once these school professionals, they usher students in and they usher them out every year. I'm not saying that they don't care about your babies like you do, but the fact remains that they're the teachers. Once the student goes off to college, paying for it is not a concern of theirs. They have their own children that they're helping. You have to take this upon yourselves. You have to. This is just something that you'd be crazy to think that a school professional is going to have the same level of interest in you being able to meet the cost of attendance as you and your family does. They don't know what you're working with in terms of the access to cash on hand, what you have in terms of scholarship eligibility. They're not specifically professionals in that area. They don't know what you have saved, and that frankly is really none of their business. What you want to do is you want to know your family, know your student, know what resources you guys have, and get in there and do the hard work. It's time for everybody to roll up their sleeves, and get it together and understand that applying for scholarships is what you're going to do. Just like paying for prom activities and student trips and all these other things, a scholarship strategy has to be in place. So when examining whether you're going to leave it up to the school counselors or have your student work in a car wash, of course, that was a joke. It was pretty funny, actually, but it's not an option. Your student's not going to work at a car wash. At best, they might get a little part-time job alongside them trying to struggle through going to class. They might be fortunate enough to get a work study or some type of job on campus. But the harsh reality of it is it's not easy to pay $50,000, $40,000, $30,000. It's just not easy. And I have to explain to people time and time again that there's really no loan available that is going to lend your student who is not employed to the extent that you want to be employed to be able to garner a loan amount of $50,000, let alone for 4 years. So this is going to take some involvement on the part of the student and the family. It's a family affair. The faster you guys approach that notion, the better off you'll be. And when I say a family affair, I'm not saying it's a family affair because I'm recommending that parents go jump into these loans. I wouldn't. I told my students, if you can't get Howard and Morehouse paid for in full, the most I was willing to kick in was $5,000 per year, the absolute most. And I didn't want to do that. Not that I couldn't, I didn't want to, because we live in an area where there are perfectly good schools right here where we live. And before they were going to go and amass a mountain of debt, I was just not prepared to let them do that as young adults. So I personally don't encourage other people to do it either, but everybody has their own, lists of what, wills, won'ts, and do's and don'ts. So that is personally up to you as a family. But I want you to understand the reality of the situation is you borrow all this money. People take out second mortgages. I was certainly not going to do that, and oftentimes it's unfortunate, but you have your student graduate from these schools and they could easily owe up to $200,000, and then the job that they get, especially in the earlier parts of their careers, don't even put them in a position where they can comfortably pay that back. So there's a lot of things that need to be considered when you consider saying yes to the dream school, and that dream school is one of the top 5. And I don't want to be disparaging to any one institution, but we all know what the top schools are and what the tuitions are at those schools. And we're looking at HBCUs because everything here what we talk about and what we do has an HBCU focus. So to meet that cost is not an easy feat. Some people can write a check. God bless them. We were not poor, but we did have some limitations as to what I was not going to encourage or frankly allow. I was going to try my best to talk them out of thinking that they were going to borrow their way through Morehouse and Howard. And again, quite honestly, it wasn't going to happen, because in order to be able to do that, the parents have to be willing to take on a mountain of debt, and it just wasn't wise. I wasn't trying to be mean or stifling. It just wasn't wise, in my opinion, to do something like that. So with a little bit of faith, we were able to get Howard and Morehouse paid for without having to contribute one thin dime. My students got so much money in scholarship aid that they were actually paid to go to school. People don't believe how possible that is, but those of you out there, I monitor the group. There are a few people in the group that know what I'm talking about. If you are diligent, if you're diligent and you get a plan together and you stick to your plan and you work that plan, you can get college paid for. And not only will you get it paid for, but you can put yourself in a position where for 4 years you'll be getting refund checks and checks in the mail. I kid you not. It's not even that hard to do. It does take some dedication, some organization, and maybe at a later date we'll have a scholarship strategy session on one of these podcasts, because we to getting through the Morehouse and Howard cycle in those 4 years of my kids' undergrad. It wasn't easy, but I can tell you, being organized made it much easier. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. Before you know it, you're able to put a scholarship application in the mail in less than 15 minutes, and basically with very little effort. So, and the student that graduated from Howard, she's now attending Columbia University. She is there also not paying. She was fortunate enough to get some organizations to help her pay for that as well. So this is the reality. So I just wanted to come on and talk about the fact that where that post was very funny. It almost got to viral status in terms of our group. We got just so many people weighing in, a lot of good advice there on that thread. But it was just funny the way they said, if you expect your child's college advisor or counselor to help them through the scholarship application process, they're going to eventually be taking some type of job like a car wash. And I thought that was really funny. I did want to mention a few other things. Just some resources that you guys might want to look at. The biggest resource I like to say that I'm proud of is the fact that our Facebook group, Black, Brown, and HBCU Bound, has really become a resource for parents who are sending first students away to college, parents who are college grads themselves, but it's been a while. So a lot of the information shared, peer information and and parents that are able to provide information, the real-time questions that are asked. Our group has become quite a resource for students. So we would encourage you to tell others about our group. If you know of anybody who has a student who is in the 9th, 10th, 11th grade, 12th grade even, or beyond, and they might be interested in attending an HBCU, it'd be great if you shared our group, because like I said, it is a resource. You can't imagine how many inbox messages I get from parents and school administrators, just thanking me for the forum. And this was made on a whim. This Facebook group was made on a whim. I thought to myself, how can I create a space where parents can have what I didn't have? When my students went to Morehouse and Howard, I said it before, I am not an HBCU graduate. I'm a graduate of a PWI local school here where I live. And it was a challenge. It was a challenge not being familiar with the HBCU system. It's not an easy system. They say when you graduate from an HBCU, you are prepared for the world, because not trying to disparage any school, like I said, but there are some challenges that you have to face, and there's some things that you have to overcome to get to the finish line when you're a student or when you are attending an HBCU. So with that being said, I wanted to create a space that could serve as a resource for information that I didn't have. As you guys may be encountering when you reach out and try to call your particular school, oftentimes they may not always be readily available. You may not always be able to get a phone call answered. What I love most about our group is when people can't get through to the schools, they turn to the group and they start asking questions. Has anybody heard from Tuskegee? Has anybody heard from, the kids call it NCAT now. So this group is living and breathing. It is here for you. So please, if you know others who are interested in attending or looking for the HBCU experience for their student, especially now where the country is headed. This is not a political group, but the fact remains we may be entering in some I'm not going to say uncharted territory, because we've been here before, but some things may be different now, because second time around, they know what they want to do and they know how to do it. So I predict there to be an uptick in students wanting to apply and attend HBCUs. And with 100 HBCUs out there, I believe there's a school for everyone who's interested. And I see an influx of students. So you tell your friends that we are the little train that could. We're here at Black, Brown, and HBCU Bound on Facebook. We're going to try to have a riveting and engaging information on this podcast. We're going to try to get some great guests who can enlighten our community. If you guys think that you know of someone who's a titan in their field and they're an HBCU graduate, or they can align themselves somehow to the HBCU experience in any way, shape, or form, we'd love to have them come on and interview them so we can bring them to you to, like I said, further our reach in terms of being a resource. If you are one of those people who do know of somebody, or if you yourself have something that you think is a contribution that could make our community more knowledgeable, reach out to our scheduling team, and that's at Travius at blackbrownandhbcubound.com. That's TRAVIAS at blackbrownandhbcu.com. So I will be leaving you, signing out. And I just like to let you guys know that we're going to try to come on and have some good information for you guys on Sundays, and to encourage you to tell your friends. Look out through the Facebook group to see where you'll find us and what the topics, upcoming topics might be. And Before going, I'd just like to say thank you for having you. I love this family we have. I love the interaction behind the scenes. I love to see you guys when you think I'm not there. I'm watching the comments. I'm looking at the engagement. But I am going to take this time to say, we do not do spam. We do not do GoFundMes. We do not sell. Our group is a resourceful group. We're here to gain, give, share information. We do not sell information in the Facebook group. That's not what we're here for. And we don't want to be strict, but we also don't want this group overrun with that type of content. So when people violate, there's very little wiggle room. You will be removed and banned. We're trying to keep the community safe. The only reason why we're strict is because we're trying to keep the community safe. So, with that being said, thank you very much for being a part of our community. We look forward to serving you for years and years to come. And we also look forward to having a riveting podcast. So please stay tuned, look out for our topics, and join us when you can. Thank you, and tell a friend. All right, bye-bye.